If you're a hardcore sports fanatic, you're in the right place. Nathan Weller is ready to dish out the hard-hitting sports talk that you love. We're talking everything from NFL and AFL to the NBA, NHL, and even cricket. This is the Real Deal Sports Podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Real Deal Sports Podcast. I'm your host, Nathan. Before I dive into today's podcast, I just wanted to take a moment to thank the people for all the positive feedback that I received from the last episode. There was a few people who disagreed with what I said, and that's fine. I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge all the people that gave me positive feedback for last week. Now that that's out of the way, let's jump into today's podcast, which goes hand in hand with last week, going through each team's gains and losses and grading their trade period. So let's jump into it. I'll start with the Adelaide Football Club. Now, if we have a look at their gains, they've picked up pick 43 and pick 77 in the draft. Nothing to rave about there. If you look at their losses, they've lost Jared Lyons to the Gold Coast and pick 71. If there was one need that the Adelaide Football Club should have targeted, it was a classy midfielder. I think they're lacking one of those as they don't have much midfield depth. After declaring that Gibbs wanted to come home, they put all their eggs in that basket, but to be honest, they didn't really give enough or offer enough to Carlton to get that deal across. So it's a fail for the Crows during this trade period. They didn't really gain anything, and they lost a midfielder, which is where they needed midfield depth. So I've given the Adelaide Crows an E for their trade period. Having a look at Brisbane now. Let's have a look at their gains. They've picked up Jack Frost, pick 3, pick 16, pick 22, pick 76, a 2017 first round pick, and a 2017 third round pick. If we have a look at their losses here, they've lost Pierce Hanley, pick 2, pick 19, pick 31, pick 51, and pick 60, 2017 third round pick, and a 2017 fourth round pick. Now, with a new coach at the helm of Brisbane, we will continue to see their rebuild. Their game plan could change and chop throughout the season, but their game plan obviously for this year was to get more draft selections for this draft period because they rate it pretty highly, which they've achieved. However, they've lost experience in Hanley, and we don't know what they're going to do with Rockcliffe. He looks like he's staying, but we don't know if he's got the captaincy or if he's going to lose it. In my opinion, I think he should lose it. I don't think he's a very good leader. And that's where I think Brisbane should be going. But for Brisbane's grade for the trade period, I've given them a C, which isn't a pass, it's not a fail. It's a mediocre trade period for Brisbane for mine. Over to the Carlton Football Club now. If we have a look at their gains here, they've picked up Billy Smets, Caleb Marchbank, Jared Pickett, Reece Palmer from GWS. They've also picked up pick 48, 63, 66, and pick 70. Now, they lost Zach Tui to Geelong, and they lost pick 45, pick 58, pick 135, I didn't even know the draft went that high, and a 2017 second round draft pick. If you got to praise Carlton here, they were able to hold firm with Gibbs and able to keep their pick 5, which is what GWS wanted for Marchbank. The Blues also gained the Marchbank, Palmer, Pickett from GWS. Overall, a good trade period for Carlton here. I'll have to give them a B-. Over to the Collingwood Football Club now. Let's have a look at their gains. They've picked up Daniel Wells, Chris Mayne, Lyndon Dunn, Will Hoskin-Elliott, pick 44, pick 51, pick 62, pick 105, and a 2017 third round pick. They've lost out of their club Nathan Brown, Travis Cloak, Marley Williams, Jared Witts, Jack Frost, pick 47, a 2017 second round pick, and a 2013 third round pick. Now, if you ask me, bringing in Wells and Mayne on relatively long-term deals could be risky, especially Wells with his age and his injuries that he's had over the years. They appeared to have lost in the defense, losing defensive players like Brown, Williams, and Frost, leaving them questionable in that department. However, they did bring in Will Hoskin-Elliott for a future second-round pick. Overall, not a great trade period for Collingwood. Unfortunately for the Magpie fans out there, I'm going to have to give them a D. Switching our focus to the Essendon Bombers now. Now they've picked up James Stewart, pick 29, pick 68. They've also, in that time, lost Michael Hibbard, pick 59, and pick 77. It wasn't a very busy trade period for the Bombers. They were able to gain pick 29 for Hibberd, which is a pretty fair deal, and they were able to gain James Stewart cheaply. Stewart has been an underrated player with limited opportunity at the GWS. They would have liked to try and keep him, but he wanted out for more opportunities. And to be honest, he could complement Danaher nicely down there. Essendon focused more on signing up their banned players from last season, leaving them handcuffed in what they could do during the trade period. I've given the Bombers a C- though. Fair deal for Hibberd, and they've picked up a good key forward to help out Danaher down there. So C- for the Bombers this year. Over across to the Fremantle Dockers now. They've picked up Cam McCarthy, Bradley Hill, Joel Hamling, Shane Kirsten, pick 7, pick 35, pick 40, pick 77. They haven't lost a hell of a lot. They've lost Chris Main, pick 3, pick 43, pick 61, and a 2017 second round pick. Now, in my opinion, not everyone could agree, but in my opinion, Fremantle were one of the big winners in this trade period. Yes, they lost Main and a pick 3 in the draft. However, they gained forwards McCarthy and Kirsten. They also helped add to their defense with the addition of Hamling. They also bolstered their midfield and running power stocks, or through the ground, with Bradley Hill. They also got back into the top 10 for the draft with pick 7. So I've given Fremantle an A, and I don't see how anyone can disagree. They've done extremely well during this trade period. Back to Victoria now, where we have a look at the Geelong Football Club. Their gains were Zach Tui, Aaron Black, pick 24, pick 64, pick 72, and a 2017 second round draft pick. Their losses were Shane Kirsten, Josh Caddy, Billy Smets, Nathan Vardy, pick 56, pick 92, and a 2017 first round draft pick. Now, if you look at the history of the trade period, Geelong have been a master of this period. This year they didn't add much to their list. They gained little for Kirsten and Vardy, and they appear to have paid overs for Zach Tui. Now, they were interested in Brett Deledio, but they didn't have a first round pick for this year's draft, and they couldn't get a deal done with Richmond there, so they lost out to GWS. But yeah, not a great period for the Geelong this year. I've given them a D- for the Cats. Over to the Gold Coast Suns now. They were one of the more busy teams during the trade period, so I'm going to have to ask you to bear with me as I go through their gains here. They've gained Pierce Hanley, Jared Witts, Jared Lyons, pick 6, pick 10, pick 73, and 3 2017 second round draft picks. Their losses were obviously Jaeger O'Meara, Dion Prestia, pick 22, pick 24, pick 26, pick 30, pick 44, pick 62, and pick 80. There's a lot there. Now, they attempted to play hardball while losing Prestia and O'Meara, and they got as much as they could from him, honestly. I don't see how they could have gained much more. They've gained Hanley, Witts, and Lyons, as well as ending up with 4 draft picks inside the top 10 for this year's draft. Overall, a good trade period. They wanted more senior players. They couldn't get them because no one wanted to go up to the Gold Coast. But not bad overall for the Gold Coast. I've given them a C+. Now, if we go down south now to the Greater Western Sydney Giants. Now, again, they were also very busy. So, again, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to ask you to bear with me as I go through their gains and losses here. They've gained Brett Deledio, pick 2, pick 39, pick 45, pick 52, pick 57, pick 58, pick 59, pick 60, pick 77, and 2 second round picks for the 2017 draft. Now, their losses were Cam McCarthy, Jack Steele, Paul Ahern, James Stewart, Pat McKenna, Will Hoskin-Elliott, Callum Marchbank, Jared Pickett, Reece Palmer, pick 7, pick 16, pick 35, pick 73, a 2017 second round pick, and a 2017 third round pick. There was a lot to go through there. The Giants had a good trade period. They managed to work their way up to pick 2 in the draft, which you assume they're going to go after Andrew McGrath there, as they've expressed. They also managed to pick up a star in Brett Delidio to add to their list, and were well compensated for losing their fringe players. Good period for the Giants. I've given them a B+ for the Giants fans out there. Over to the Hawthorn Footy Club now. They've always been constant professionals during this trade period. They've brought in Tyrone Vickery, Jaeger O'Meara, Tom Mitchell, pick 88, and a 2017 second round draft pick. Meanwhile, they've lost Brad Hill, Sam Mitchell, Jordan Lewis, pick 14, pick 36, pick 54, pick 72, a 2017 first round draft pick, and they've also lost a 2017 second round draft pick, sorry. Now, as I said, Hawthorn have been constant professionals over this period in the past, but only time will tell if the Hawks got this trade period right and if they were successful. They took a big gamble on O'Meara and paying overs for Tyrone Vickery, $500,000 a year for 2 years. I mean, really? Seriously? Everyone knows my thoughts on Vickery there. I definitely don't think he's worth that. Or ultimately forcing out their stars in Mitchell and Lewis. They've sacrificed their draft standing dramatically, but they've got their 3 targets that they wanted to get out there. As I said, time will tell, but as they got their targets that they wanted, I've given them a C+, which I think's being a bit generous, but they got their targets. Over to the Melbourne Footy Club now. They've picked up Jordan Lewis, Michael Hibberd, Pat McKenna, pick 47, and pick 69. They didn't lose much here either. They've lost Lyndon Dunn, pick 29, pick 48, and pick 66. Melbourne appear ready to launch into the finals in 2017 with the additions of Hibberd and Lewis. They didn't have to give up much for Lewis, and they got a fair deal for Hibberd. They also got the signature of Hogan for a 2-year contract extension. I can't comment on Pat McKenna as I haven't seen him play. Apparently he's had a lot of injuries, but again, they got him pretty cheaply, and he could play forward nicely with Jesse Hogan. So not bad for Melbourne. They've given them a pass, and I've given them a C for the Demon fans out there. Over to North Melbourne now. Let's have a look at their gains here. They've gained Paul Ahern, Nathan Rovat, Marley Williams, pick 33, pick 92, a 2017 third round pick, and a 2017 fourth round pick. Now they've lost Daniel Wells, Aaron Black, pick 69, and pick 105. Now the loss of Wells will hurt, as well as losing their other aging stars in Harvey, Del Santo, Ferrito, and Petrie. They've added a few fringe players, but nothing that will impact dramatically or push them further into finals. Not a great period here for North, so I've only given them a D+. North Melbourne fans won't be happy with that one, but hey, I'll call them as I see them, a D+ for North Melbourne. Now, if we have a look at the Port Adelaide Football Club, well, there's not a really lot to have a look at. They came out beating their chest at the start of the trade period, saying all our players are up for trade. They're all on the trade period. Come and offer us something for our players. And relatively did nothing. If you have a look at their gains here, they picked up pick 14, pick 17, pick 30, and pick 31. They lost pick 19, pick 49, pick 67, and a 2017 first round draft pick. Now, if you ask me, the club made a real joke of itself with the Hamish Hartlett situation, claiming he's on the trade table, and were willing to let him go meet with clubs in Melbourne, then taking him off the trade table, saying, no, we're going to make him honour his contract that he signed with us, which is really ridiculous. And apart from trading a few picks, we really heard nothing from Port Adelaide, which is really disappointing, as you would have thought they're ready to jump into the top 8 next season. But they haven't really improved to their list, made much improvement to their list. So because of that, I've given the Port Adelaide a E grading. Over to Richmond now. If we have a look at their gains, they've picked up Dion Prestia, Toby Nankervis, Josh Caddy, pick 27, pick 56, a 2017 first round draft pick, and a 2017 third round draft pick. Now, if they haven't lost much, as we look at their losses here, they've lost Tyrone Vickery. As everyone knows my thoughts, I reckon he's a hack, so not much of a loss there. Pick 6, pick 46, pick 64, Brett Delidio, and a 2017 second round draft pick. Now, Richmond will highly criticise for being slow to react during the trade period, but hey, They finished like a house on fire. They bolstered their ruck stocks by adding Toby Nankervis and adding some grunt into the midfield, which they think they've been lacking, with Dion Prestia and Josh Caddy. They also got back a good deal for Brett Delidio with a future first-round draft pick and a future third-round draft pick. So overall, Richmond have done pretty well here after being criticised for being slow to react to the draft period. I'll stuff that up there, sorry. But I've given Richmond Football Club a B grading there for the Tigers fans. You should be happy with how they've gone during this trade period. If we have a look at the Saints and their gains and losses now they've gained Jack Steele, Nathan Brown, Kobe Stevens, pick 23, pick 36, and a 2017 first round draft pick. And they've lost pick 10, pick 68, a 2017 second round draft pick, and a 2017 fifth round draft pick. Oh, and they've also lost pick 50 for this year's draft in there somewhere. The Saints were another one of this year's big winners through the trade period. Although they didn't really get the big name for the midfield they were after, they were linked with Rockcliffe, but they didn't really show much interest or try and transact anything with Brisbane there. They did grab midfield depth in Steele and Stevens that can add a bit of grunt and pace through the ground there. They also added to their defensive stocks with the addition of Brown, so the Saints have done pretty well there. And I reckon they could make the top 8 this next season for the Saints. So well done, St Kilda. Let's have a look at the Sydney Swans now, the grand finals from last season. They didn't really do a lot. Let's have a look at their gains here. They've gained pick 9, pick 19, pick 46, and pick 49. Now they've lost Tom Mitchell, Toby Nankervis, pick 17, pick 39, and pick 57. Their trade restrictions were lifted this season. However, the Swans didn't really bring any players. Well, they didn't bring any players. They lost Mitchell, but that could be okay with Heaney moving into the midfield, so I don't think that will hurt them too bad. They've lost Toby Nankervis, again, not a big loss, as I think he was, fourth in line in their ruck position. A move into the top 10 of the draft was good. They was from 17 to 9, which is pretty good there. But the Swans were minor players, and for that I've given them a D- for Sydney. Let's have a look at the Eagles now. They've brought in Sam Mitchell, Nathan Vardy, and pick 54. They lost pick 52, pick 70, and pick 88. Obviously, the Eagles consider their premiership still open, as they brought in Sam Mitchell, who might be able to catapult them back into the contention of winning a premiership. Excuse me. They also snagged Nathan Vardy. Now, both of them were relatively cheap. Sam Mitchell for pick 88 and Nathan Vardy for pick 72. So there they could be back in the finals picture, but we'll have to see how Nat Nui and all their other injured stars go during the preseason. But yeah, relatively happy with how West Coast went, and for that I've given them a B+ for the Eagles. Now, last but certainly not least, we've got the reigning premiers, the Western Bulldogs. Now they've gained Travis Cloak, pick 26, pick 50, pick 80, a 2017 third round pick, and a 2017 fifth round pick. In the meantime, they've lost Joel Hamling, Nathan Rovat, Kobe Stevens, pick 40, pick 63, pick 76, a 2017 third round pick, so cancels out the other one, and a 2017 fourth round pick. The Bulldogs think that Cloak will obviously help maintain the success they had this season. They didn't really add much to improve during this trade period, but when you look at their list, they might not need to. They've still got all their young guns, or when they all come back healthy, they're definitely going to be a force next season. But not a lot of movement here for the Bulldogs, and for that I've given them a C- for the doggies out. Now, just to recap each team's grade in case you missed it and you just want a refresher. For Adelaide, I've given them an E, a C for the Brisbane Lions. Carlton received a B-, Collingwood a D, Essendon received a C-, an A for the Fremantle Dockers, a D- for the Cats, a C+ for the Gold Coast Suns, a B+ for the Giants, Hawthorn a C+, Melbourne received a C, a D+ for North Melbourne, Port Adelaide received another E, Richmond a B. St Kilda also received an A. Sydney a D minus, and West Coast a B plus, and to finish it off, the Doggies received a C minus. Relatively, looking at it, people might think I was a bit harsh on their clubs, but hey, to be honest, I've only given the South Australian clubs, Adelaide and Port Adelaide, a fail there. And if you disagree, feel free to let me know, and we can discuss it, we can debate. But these are my opinions, and I'll call them as I see them. And that's it for today's podcast. That's all 18 clubs' gains and losses, and what I thought by giving them a grade. So if you thought I was harsh on your club, feel free to message me at my Facebook account or the Real Deal Sports podcast Facebook page. That's fine. We can discuss, we can debate. But as I said, these are my thoughts and opinions, and I'm not going to be backpedaling or retracting anything I've said today. If you disagree, that's fine. And if you agree, great. Going forward, people have mentioned that they'd like to hear me do a mock draft for the upcoming draft this year. If that's something you guys are interested in, that's great. Let me know. Or if you want me to focus on other subjects and sporting issues, that's fine too. Just let me know. And that's all for today. This has been the Real Deal Sports Podcast, and thank you very much for listening.